Hello, all you pretty ladies, fancy gentlemen, small children, confusing teenagers, elders, and gorgeous human beings listening right now. It's me again, your favorite host, Esteban Julio Ricardo Montoya de la Rosa Ramirez. Today, for this episode of Flashing Back to the Past, we're going medieval style. And I'm not talking about that same old medieval stuff with knights and whatnot. I'm talking about the actual romance medieval stuff that took place between one of the most famous couples in history. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one, the only, Heloise! Bonjour. Thank you for having me. Means a lot. Of course. Anything for a VIP like you. Well, I suppose we should get started. Tell me, Heloise. I know you were born in 1098 in France and died in 1164 in the Oratory of the Paraclete in France yet again. But I would like to know some more background about you. So maybe start with your early life. As a child, I was raised and educated at the convent of St. Mary in Argenteuil, a Benedictine community near Paris. Since I was educated and wrote letters, which showed that I was a writer, I was considered a prodigy and even gained a little fame before moving to Paris. Eventually, I went to Paris to stay with my uncle Fulbert. He was the canon of Notre Dame Cathedral, and in 1116 he accepted the 37-year-old Peter Abelard into his house to tutor me. Peter was at least 15 years older than me and was one of the most popular teachers and philosophers in Paris. It was not until later that I realized Peter adored my love for letters and had written to me that he had no intent on teaching me but rather seducing me. I eventually did end up falling in love with my tutor, and during this whole romance period, Peter and I wrote letters to each other that expressed our passion for one another. Some of these letters can still be seen today. Despite our rush into love, our relationship went undiscovered for several months before rumors reached my uncle. Peter was taken out of the house, but we remained seeing each other in secret. This was around the time when I found out I was pregnant with his child. When this happened, Peter and I fled to Brittany to stay with his family. This is where I gave birth to our son, Absulab. Before he was born, Peter intended to marry me, despite my protest that this marriage would ruin his reputation. After returning to Paris to ask my uncle for my hand in marriage, Peter and I were secretly wed with my uncle and a few friends in attendance. Soon after, I remained at my uncle's house while Peter remained at his own, for this was part of the agreement with Fulbert. When rumors of the marriage surfaced, I denied them in attempts to keeping it a secret. This angered Fulbert and ended with a house situation that included him releasing his wrath on me. Since the abuse was intolerable, Peter sent me to the convent of Argenteuil. When Fulbert saw this, he believed that Peter was discarding me and set to take revenge on my husband. Fulbert hired assailants, broke into Peter's house as he slept, and castrated him. After the scandalous situation, something in Peter changed. He had removed himself from public life in shame. I felt like I was robbed of the man I continued to love, and even remember a letter I wrote to Peter that went like this: I love you more than ever, and so revenge myself on him. I will still love you with all the tenderness of my soul till the last moment of my life. If formerly my affection for you was not so pure, if in those days both mind and body loved you, I often told you even then that I was more pleased with possessing your heart than with any other happiness, and the man was the thing I least valued in you. Fleeing his shame, Peter went to a monastery and took the vows of a monk. He had instructed me to do the same, although I felt no calling to do anything like that. Despite this, I accepted out of the love for Peter and for the guilt I felt for all his suffering. Once accepting without hesitation, I became a nun and later the prioress at Argenteuil. In 1128, 9 years after taking religious vows, Abbat Suzer of Saint Denis claimed the convent and expelled me along with the rest of the nuns. Upon hearing this, Peter allowed the nuns to use his land in Champagne to build a new convent around the chapel called the Paraclete. In 1135, the community of the Paraclete was officially recognized by the Pope, and 3 years after that, under Innocent II, I was appointed abbess of the Paraclete. Around this time, Peter and I grew more distant than ever. We never lived together again and didn't keep in touch for over 12 years. But when I learned that Peter wrote about our story in the Historia Calamitatum, or Story of My Misfortunes, I wrote to him. In my letters, I explained my still strong love and devotion to him, as well as why he had neglected me for so long. The two of us wrote to each other over several years after that, until his death in 1142. Once Peter died, his body was taken to my convent, and I saw to it that his tomb was to be well prepared and prayers were to be said to him daily. During the last 2 decades of my life, I was seen as an admired and capable abbess that earned me regards of all the popes. When I had died on May 16, 1164, I was buried beside my beloved Peter. In 1817, though, our remains were moved to the cemetery of Père-Lachaise in Paris. Wow, I am beyond speechless. That was very moving and very well appreciated. Thank you so much for that, Heloise. Now let's go into detail about those major deeds and accomplishments. Why exactly do people see you as a VIP, and why does the world remember you? To be honest, I am mainly a VIP for being a woman of such intellect. Most women wouldn't be seen to have an education like I did. With my fascination of writing and letters, the world has also remembered me. The story of Peter and I has been chronicled in Peter's autobiographical writing and the love letters between him and I had soon become famous after the story of Peter and I was sung by medieval minstrels and troubadours during the Middle Ages. Our story was ill-fated, but remains in this world. Due to my high education and legendary relationship with Peter, I am remembered as a VIP of medieval times. In my letters, I showed that I was well taught in the argument skills of logicians. Finally, I am also remembered for the leading of the convent of Paraclete as abbess of that convent. You make me sound like I have literally accomplished nothing in my life. Well, you sure are a woman to remember, but let's get to the bigger picture. How did you influence things beyond your lifetime? I'm pretty sure you'd have to have impacted this world somehow if we remember you this much. What impact do you have in history? I have helped impact history in that the letters of Peter and I are now among the best-known documents that give evidence of early romantic love existing within society. From the 13th century on, there are references to us as a couple by multiple authors. One includes that of Jean de Meun's Roman de la Rose, written in 12 AD. Religiously speaking, I helped to reform monastic life by accommodating the new and growing community of women. With help from Peter, I was able to guide my women's abbey and establish a standard for other abbeys. Such standards include a basic standard of dress and a standard for meals. I also helped establish 6 sister abbeys around Paris. This is so surreal. You are truly a legend, Heloise. I mean, honestly, can I get an applause? Woo! Yeah, you go, Heloise. You're the realest. Haha, thank you. It feels nice to finally share my story. That's what I aim for, and I'm glad that's how you feel. Okay, last question, Heloise. This should be easy. What did you enjoy, and what exactly did you study? Oh yeah, this shouldn't be that hard. I enjoyed writing, obviously, but to go into deeper detail, as seen in some of my letters, I adored secular Latin poets and the classical philosophical traditions. I also enjoyed such philosophers like the Roman philosopher Cicero and Latin rhetoric. I also deeply appreciated Saint Jerome, the 4th century church father. My studies included that of Latin, Greek, and Hebrew languages. I also studied in the fields of grammar and rhetoric, which are 2 branches of classical philosophy. So I guess you could say I really love philosophy. Some have even said that I excelled in my studies quite well. I am just blown away, Heloise. You are an amazing, intelligent woman, and I want to thank you yet again for coming on the show today. Let's give Heloise another round of applause, shall we? Oh, thank you very much, Esteban. Truly means a ton. Thank you for having me. And as Heloise begins to leave, thank you for listening to this episode of Flashing Back to the Past with your host, Esteban. I hope you'll leave this podcast today thinking about Heloise and her incredible story. Oh, and don't forget to check out the website for any news on Tuesday freebies around town. We have to also thank the staff down at Cluckers for contributing to today's show. Make sure to check out other episodes down below.